Each year, this company brings to life more than 500,000 authentic cowboy hats. And we're not talking about just any accessory. A Stetson can cost more than $5,000 because behind every piece lies a handcrafted process as complex as it is demanding. A chain of steps that combines tradition, precision, and materials selected with extreme care. But what actually happens inside a Stetson factory? To find out, we traveled to the brand's facilities in Texas and followed, step by step, the creation of one of the most recognized icons of American style, from the first tuft of hair to the impeccable hat that lands in a buyer's hands. The story of the modern cowboy hat begins in 1865 when John B. Stetson founded the Stetson Hat Company after years of experimenting with different fibers, finishes, and felting methods. His famous Boss of the Plains was not only a commercial success, but also a symbol of durability and functionality. Since then, his surname has become synonymous with prestige in the world of premium hats. Few images represent the essence of the American cowboy as powerfully as the silhouette of a well-shaped Stetson. Designed to withstand relentless sun, dry desert winds, and sudden storms, these hats are waterproof, resilient, and built to last for decades. Making them is not simply a job, it is a long, meticulous, and costly journey, almost a ritual that has remained alive for more than a century. The process begins in Texas, where huge bales of natural hair arrive to be transformed into felt. This material comes from various parts of the world: European rabbit hair, North American beaver, and Argentine hair, among others. Each type of fiber has specific properties. Beaver hair is extremely water-resistant. Rabbit contributes softness and uniformity, and hair offers a fine yet strong fiber. This type of hair is far more durable, clean, and weather-resistant than traditional wool. That quality comes at a price. Half a kilogram of beaver hair can cost between $12 and $15, while chinchilla hair, used in some exclusive models, can quadruple that amount. The first step is to combine these fibers. An experienced operator takes the blend and feeds it into a century-old machine that joins them with remarkable precision. The mixing roller, a historical piece that has been running since the 1890s, guides the hairs into a chamber where jets of compressed air make them fly, break, settle, lightly intertwine, and shed dust or impurities. After nearly an hour of this airborne treatment, the blend falls into a collection box. There, a second worker gathers it and sends it to a rotating loading machine that pushes the material into a blower divided into multiple chambers. And it's precisely at this stage that the first major challenge arises. The fibers are still too long to create high-density felt. Quality felt depends on short hair, which interlocks better and forms a firm, stable, and durable fabric. That's why this antique machinery, extremely valuable and practically impossible to replace today, filters out the long hairs and forms layers of the short hair that really matters. The longer falls, the useful remains. Inside the blower, several metal rollers covered with mesh help distribute the hair with a precision that still surprises modern engineers. The lighter fibers move through the chambers, while the heavier ones and impurities become trapped below. At the end of the route, a worker collects the final product and weighs it precisely. There is no room for improvisation. For this particular model, exactly 230 grams of hair are required, not one more, not one less. Although the machinery is impressive, the real magic comes from the people who operate it. The company has more than 200 workers across 2 plants, and they are the ones who guide each piece from beginning to end, drawing on years, sometimes decades, of experience. The measured portion reaches a conveyor belt that carries it to the forming machine. There, a vacuum system pulls the fibers onto a mold shaped like a giant cone. At this stage, the material is so light it resembles cotton candy, A gust of air could undo it. This first cone is peculiar, a large, soft, weak structure, roughly 8 times bigger than the finished hat. To protect it, a worker wraps it in a damp cloth and places a metal cover on top. Then it is carefully submerged in a hot water and soap bath at about 70 degrees Celsius or 158 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat causes the fibers to begin shrinking and tangling together into thousands of natural micro-hooks, initiating the formation of the felt. When this bath is finished, the compacted but still fragile layer of fibers is removed from the mold with a quick, precise motion. Although the structure is beginning to take shape, the material is still unstable. For this reason, the cone is wrapped again in fabric and goes through a hardening process that combines massaging rollers with repeated hot water baths. Each pass compresses the material a bit more, eliminates internal gaps, and strengthens the interlocking of the fibers. In total, 6 passes are performed. With each cycle, the cone shrinks in size, loses volume, and gains density. After these stages, it will have shrunk by about 10 centimeters, though the exact amount can vary depending on the type of hair used. The final massage, much more intense than the previous ones, finishes solidifying the fiber, leaving a material firm enough to be handled manually. Even so, the hat still requires a final hardening phase to achieve the perfect rigidity that characterizes Stetson hats. Once the cone leaves the forming machine, that still fragile structure begins a journey of transformation that will give it the exact dimensions, proportions, and rigidity of the final hat. Although its primitive silhouette can already be recognized at this stage, the material is still far too soft, almost gelatinous, unable to withstand the rough use of a real cowboy. For this reason, the hat bodies are placed inside pressure molds, enormous metal blocks designed to compress the felt, stabilize it, and begin giving it a more uniform thickness. However, even after this initial pressure, the body remains as flexible as freshly dampened fabric. It needs real, deep hardening, something that penetrates the material and provides the rigid structure for which Stetson is famous. And that is where its secret ingredient comes into play: shellac, a natural resin obtained from the solidified secretions of the insect Carya laca. Pulverized, diluted, and filtered until a pure solution is obtained, this resin adheres to the fibers and, once dry, forms a hard layer that acts as the hat's invisible skeleton. Without this step, the felt would bend as easily as a wet rag. With it, it can resist rain, wind, impacts, and years of use. After the shellac is applied, the bodies must dry completely, a process requiring time, patience, and strict control of temperature and humidity. It is during this drying stage that the hat slowly begins to reveal itself. The crown starts to show its final volume, and each curve, still faint, hints at the shape the crown will eventually take. The crown is shaped through controlled stretching and pulling. Each tug serves a purpose, widening the base, raising the upper portion, or defining the transition toward the brim. Although machines assist, the expert eye of the operator determines how much to loosen and how much to tighten. Even so, the design will not be complete until the crown is fully created, that upper portion that serves a dual purpose, protecting against rain and acting as thermal insulation for the wearer's head, preventing both overheating and excessive heat loss. Before final shaping, the cones are dyed. Dyeing not only adds color, but also strengthens and stabilizes the felt. Once dyed, they enter a specialized crown forming machine. There, an operator softens the felt strategically to make it workable and shapes the upper section, molding it with quick hands that know every curve of every style. Then another machine performs the initial shaping of the brim, smoothing it and giving it a more uniform thickness. This is the first moment when the cone truly begins to resemble what we all recognize as a hat. When the piece is moistened again, it is placed in a wet blocking machine,
one of the most critical tools in the process. Equipped with brass fingers that expand and contract, this machine grips the felt, stretches it, and gives the crown its definitive form. Once molded, the hat goes into a vacuum machine that extracts much of the remaining water. Afterward, the pieces rest for an entire day to dry completely and stabilize their newly acquired shape. Once dry, the hats begin a 210-kilometer journey to Stetson's finishing plant in Garland, Texas, the largest cowboy hat finishing factory in the world. There they arrive shrunken, rigid, dyed, and ready for the most delicate stage of all, polishing. Polishing is a meticulous operation. Each hat is sanded with sandpaper of different grits to achieve a smooth, uniform, flawless surface. Although machines perform most of the work, an operator always supervises the process by placing the palm of the hand against the felt. Touch is the most precise tool. Only a trained person can determine when the thickness is correct and when the surface has reached that velvety finish that characterizes a quality Stetson. This sanding leaves tiny, loose flecks of felt, but they are removed using a surprising method: a brief pass over a flame that instantly burns away the residues without damaging the hat. Next, the hat goes into a hydraulic press responsible for shaping the crown with millimetric precision. A transfer sheet and a heated aluminum mold are inserted. When the press descends, it not only imprints the distinctive crown shape of the model, but also marks the internal logo, leaving a flawless and permanent seal. It is at this stage that the crown acquires its final design, the one that allows a Stetson to be recognized at a glance. Then, another operator places the hat in a cutter equipped with a special guide. The brim's edge is leveled, adjusted, and prepared for the next aluminum machine, which heats and shapes the brim. To form the model's characteristic crease, the style that distinguishes a cattleman, a Gus, or a Tom Mix, a rubber mold is inserted inside the hat body and a pressure of 36 kilos is applied. Afterward, the brim edge is trimmed with surgical precision to achieve a clean, professional finish. Further along, the piece is placed on a wooden block, identical to the final size, and covered with a fitted cloth so it maintains its shape as it cools. This resting stage is essential. If the hat is not stabilized properly, it may deform later. Once ready, it is carefully inspected and cleaned to remove even the slightest dust. In other areas of the plant, highly skilled artisans hand-apply the hat band, whether leather, fabric, or a combination of both, using scissors, pliers, needles, and training that makes every movement quick yet impeccable. Other specialists handle the cutting and manual stitching of the inner ribbon, the leather sweatband, and the labels, adjusting them perfectly to the size of the hat. To finish, each piece undergoes a thorough inspection. Angles, seams, curves, the balance of the brim, and the uniformity of the color are reviewed. If there is a loose thread, it is cut. If there is a microscopic stain, it is polished. If the shape is not perfect, it is corrected. Only then is the hat carefully packed into a protective bag and shipped to its final destination, ready to become part of the style and history of whoever wears it. Made from the highest quality materials and crafted using traditional techniques refined over more than 150 years, Stetsons are designed to be more than an accessory. They are durable works of craftsmanship, made to accompany their owner for a lifetime.